do we prefer somebody who is truly a believer in Jesus Christ or somebody who is a good moral person but is a part of a cult? And it's not politically correct to say, but it's true. Mormonism is a cult.
That was Dallas megachurch pastor Robert Jeffress after endorsing Rick Perry at the Value Voters Summit over the weekend. The Perry campaign responded with a statement saying the governor does not believe Mormonism is a cult. But the statement certainly didn't stop Jeffress from a whirlwind media tour, appearing with CNN's John King on Friday, then later that night with Anderson Cooper, then here on MSNBC Saturday afternoon. Then it was back to CNN, then over to Fox and Friends on Sunday, and back on Fox News this morning. The talking points were the same ones he shared with Chris Matthews on Hardball today.
I was talking not about a sociological cult like David Koresh or Jim Jones. I'm talking about a theological cult. And so by that definition, it is a theological cult. I did not mean that kind of cult. I was talking about a theological cult.
Something tells me the conservative voters in the South aren't going to care about differences between cults. They just care about a pastor endorsing Rick Perry who tells them Mitt Romney is a cult member. I think that's the message they want out there. Joining me tonight is Huffington Post contributor Jim Moore. He's also the author of the upcoming book, Adios Mofo, Why Rick Perry Will Make America Miss George W. Bush. He writes at morethink.com as well. Jim, good to have you with us tonight. You know, if the Perry campaign is out there objecting to Jeffress saying Mormonism is a cult, why didn't they discourage all of his media appearances where he just continued to make that claim time and time again?
Here's the important thing to note about that, Ed, and that is simply that what he isn't saying is much more critical than what he is saying. He has not said he believes Mormonism is a part of Christendom. Rick Perry refuses to say that. He did defend Mitt Romney and say it's not a cult, but he has not embraced it as part of traditional Christian theology. And frankly, I think it's clearly obvious, at least to me, and I think a number of other observers, that Reverend Jeffress is acting as a surrogate on Rick Perry's behalf. He's running around raising a discussion that they want to make sure every evangelical Christian in the South hears that Mitt Romney is a Mormon and evangelicals will not vote for a Mormon. This isn't happening by accident. Nothing happens by accident at this point in a campaign.
If Mitt Romney does get the nomination, do guys like Jeffress hold their nose and vote for him, or do they stay home, and how will the Christian conservatives respond if it is Mitt Romney getting the nomination?
I don't think they vote for him. I think they stay home. They stay away in droves. You know, it's the whole Casey Stengel, if people don't want to come out to the ballpark, there's nothing you can do to stop them. They will not turn out enthusiastically. And for a Republican to win the White House, they have to have a strong Southern turnout all across Dixie, and they have to do very well in that part of the United States. And this is going to have an effect. I think there was a Pew poll in 2007 that said 57% of evangelicals, Ed, do not believe Mormonism is a part of Christendom. These are people who are active in the party, and they are people who will have a very, very difficult time voting for Mitt Romney, even though he's probably their best candidate to win the election.
Here's Jeffress on Fox News today. Check it out.
You know, there are people who would like to try to make me the Jeremiah Wright of the right, or Rick Perry's Jeremiah Wright. Rick Perry has never listened to a sermon of mine. He's certainly never been a member of my church. We're just acquaintances.
So will Jeffress be a liability for Perry, or is he actually an asset?
I think he's acting as a political asset. Look, when he did that introduction ad for him at that event with the Value Voters, Perry knew what he was going to say, and Perry knows how Reverend Jeffress feels about these things. The pastor wasn't up there speaking extemporaneously, and they knew when he left the podium that he was going to be approached by reporters and he was going to be asked these kinds of questions. This isn't an accident. Rick Perry doesn't have to distance himself. Rick Perry doesn't have to say anything. He just lets Pastor Jeffress keep saying the same thing over and over again, and it helps Rick Perry.
Yeah, candidate John Huntsman, who's not doing very well, he is also a Mormon. He called Jeffress a moron today. But other candidates like Michelle Bachmann and Herman Cain, they pretty much are dodging the question. What do you make of that?
I think that the problem is if Michelle Bachmann or Herman Cain or Rick Perry or any one of those, Ed, came out and said, Mitt Romney's religion is not a cult, Mitt Romney is a part of Christendom, then they would lose support in the South among evangelical voters and the Tea Party voters, and it would hurt them immensely. So they're parsing their language very carefully, and they're not saying that, but they are being careful to defend him and say it's not a cult, but they aren't saying it's a part of Christianity, and that's the careful step they're taking.
Perry released this campaign ad today. Let's look at it.
Why, if it's good for Massachusetts and it's working in Massachusetts, would you apply it to the rest of the country?
I would.
Romney has flip-flopped on some of the issues.
I didn't change my mind. Now I'm running for a different office.
We'll end up with a nation that's taken a mandate approach.
There are a lot of reasons not to elect me.
He's right.
Well, yes, that is my voice that they used in there. I don't know. I don't think I get any rights fee for it, though. But how effective is the strategy to label Mitt Romney as not a true conservative? I mean, is he going to be? It seems like he's doing the marathon. He's not doing the sprint, and he is ahead of New Hampshire, so he's going to get an early primary victory. Romney as not a true conservative. Is that strategy by the Perry camp going to work?
It's an essential strategy for them, Ed. They have to go after him on things like gay marriage, abortion, global warming, and his Romney care in his home state. Those are the places where he is vulnerable. And as Rick Perry has lost voters and has lost support, he's got to go back to those issues so that he can beat him up on those, and the immigration thing becomes less relevant.
And, Jim, you're coming to us tonight from New Hampshire, where there is going to be a big debate tomorrow night. Quickly, do you think this is a crucial time for Rick Perry? Does he have to show well tomorrow night?
Absolutely, Ed. He's got to do really well. He's got to look poised. He's got to spend the evening talking about how well he's done protecting the border, and he's going to talk a lot about jobs. And those are the only two answers he's going to give all night, regardless of the question. And if he doesn't do well tomorrow night, he comes out of here very, very wounded for the future.
All right, Jim Moore, great to have you with us tonight. Thanks so much. Coming up, Herman Cain doesn't believe that racism holds anybody back. Michael Eric Dyson is going to be weighing in on that. You're watching The Ed Show on MSNBC. Stay with us.